That is the scene right across the country. Canada Post workers are on strike. The union called for a cross-country strike after the federal government instructed the corporation to make big reforms, including the end of home delivery. A Cup W local president says they had no choice but to go on strike.
After the announcement from the minister, the union was given no choice but to go on a nationwide strike. This attack on postal workers and on the Canadian public system, postal system, is unjustifiable, and proper public consultation is needed. But before that, we need a contract that is ratifiable for our membership.
Jon Hamilton is a spokesperson for Canada Post. Jon Hamilton, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
So the workers are back on the picket line. Are the teams back at the bargaining table?
We are working to get back at the bargaining table. We are working on an offer. We are planning on sharing those global offers today. But obviously we watched the minister's announcement like Cup W did and realized we need to take another look at those. So we've told the union we'll get back to presenting offers next week, and hopefully we can bring, start to bring some resolution to this. But I'll be honest, we can only put forward what's fair and what we can afford. The reality is we've been losing a lot of money. A lot of things have been frozen in time, largely because of the regulatory structure that we've been under for the last 20, 30 years, but that's now changed. And there's a very clear indication from the government that while we've just started getting bailouts from the government, that those are going to end, and we need to fix the service and align it so that Canadians as taxpayers are paying to use it, not just paying as taxpayers, because they're paying more and more as taxpayers than they are to use a system that they use less and less.
But it seems to me that with this latest return to the picket line, there are two separate issues. There's your collective agreement that you need to negotiate with Cup W,
yep.
But Jim Gallant and others said they're gone out because of what the government announced yesterday, and that is not a bargaining table issue. That is a mandate from the Carney government. So how do you deal with that?
Well, obviously, we would rather be working together and collaborating on that issue and fixing the Postal Service. The most secure jobs are in a company that is secure and financially sustainable. We are far away from that. So we want to work together and make the changes. A lot of the changes, while the announcement was, we were waiting to see what was in there. We didn't know exactly what was coming, but it's about what we've been saying for 2 years. And what we went through, both parties, through the Industrial Inquiry Commission, and said, look, 77% of Canadians get their mail delivered to a box that is not attached to their door. We have a small percentage of Canadians that still get door-to-door service at a very expensive, premium over top of CMBs, and it is not sustainable. That was built for the days of a lot of mail. It's a great service, but it's not the one that we can afford anymore. So there's things like that, but it's making the changes or allowing us the freedom to look at an area and say, I think we're overserved in terms of post offices here, because this area in 1994 was rural, but it's certainly not anymore. It's, as the city creeps out into the
I think country. A place like Milton, Ontario would be an example of that, maybe? Like, or
even Richmond Hill.
Right.
Like, there are places that if we were standing there today and I said, hey, according to our rules, this is rural, you'd be looking at strip malls and cars going by and 4 lanes of traffic and say, what? So those are areas where, that's where we're going to look. And being served and heavy in areas, in urban and suburban areas, makes it tougher to afford everything we need to do in rural. And the minister was quite clear, and we want to be clear as well, that we are the only one that connects all Canadians. So rural, remote, and northern, we want to preserve that service because it is incredibly important to us as a country, and others aren't going to step in and fill that gap.
But if the mandate and changes that Joelle Lightbound, the minister, outlined yesterday, obviously with the backing of the Prime Minister and the rest of Cabinet, if those are the issue that has precipitated the return to the picket lines, you can't take those things off the table as a Crown corporation that's been. So how do you move ahead with Cup W when that is seemingly the trigger point here?
Well, I think the first way to get back to the table is to present offers. And I know the union will say, look, we present an offer, and Canada Post didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. We responded. We said, this was the offer in August. Thanks for the offer, but it adds $2.8 billion in new costs over the 4 years of the agreement. It adds more personal days, so up to 17 on top of 7 weeks vacation, and all these stat holidays. It adds more full-time employees for the long term. It adds almost a veto over any changes within our operations. We can't sign on to that. So we asked them, look, get it, that's, your dream scenario, but that's where we were 2 years ago. So why don't you come back with something that we can talk about? And they didn't.
But there seems to be even a fundamental disagreement about what the facts are about the financial reality and the state of Canada Post, right? You have your argument. William Kaplan, the commissioner who did the industrial inquiry, made some pretty blunt comments about the state of things. And Jim Gallant from CUPW was sitting in that chair last night, and he just rejected Kaplan's findings, saying he just accepted management's argument. Some people didn't tell the truth in these hearings. He only took 2.5 days. Like, it seems there is a total lack of trust and understanding between the company and its union.
Well, and yeah, that's unfortunate. But I think you hit it on the head, David. We are facing an existential crisis. I think everybody understands that there's less mail and more addresses to deliver to, that we need to change. But every time we try to have those conversations, the union calls it, made up. It's pretend. It's not real. And if you can't agree that there's a problem, it's really hard to fix that working together. So we hopefully can get to that. We think the announcement yesterday by the government was a clear sign that it's time to get on with it. Because the reality is, and I think if Canadians just look at their own experience, they are using the postal system vastly different than they did 20 years ago. They used to send a lot of mail. Now they send more parcels. The mail has declined. That's not coming back. Right. The parcels are going elsewhere. We need to change and be more affordable, but Canadians value the postal system right now, but we're really expensive to them as taxpayers.
You've got 45 days now from the government to submit a plan to them that goes beyond the measures that Minister Lightbound announced yesterday, restructuring management, restructuring the workforce. What do you anticipate the order of magnitude of change that would be required, and can you do it in 45 days?
Well, the 45 days is to put together the plan. Yeah. And as the minister said yesterday, and we fully agree, there should be no stone unturned. So yeah, we've been on the train within management over the last year in terms of reducing the size of our ranks. A number of my colleagues are no longer with the company. So, and that is unfortunately a reality, but that's a reality for any company these days. But we need to look at our own in our operations and everything, and hopefully get to a point where we can work with the union to make those changes, to make the system affordable, in line with the current and future needs of the country.
We're talking big job losses, though. This is what this sounds like. This is a significant reduction in the workforce.
We are going to be a leaner organization, but if you look at our workforce, just the CUPW represented employees alone, 14,000 over the next 5 years are set to retire. More than half of those are eligible to retire now. So we have an opportunity to make changes and really lean into attrition. And we want to be thoughtful, but we have to agree on these changes. We can't try and pretend like, things haven't changed since 1994 and walking out and having a national strike that really gets in the way of talking is sending a message that no, we're not going to sign on for any change. Right. And I think we need to change for those who rely on the postal system, and that's our employees too. Just
as a final point, the last time there was a work stoppage, it was in the pre-Christmas period, which is obviously the acute pressure point on the Postal Service. It's not at that stage this time of the year, but back home in Newfoundland and Labrador, provincial election, municipal elections, mail-in ballots, they're all caught up. There are still businesses who are just getting back to normal from the last strike. What is your message to voters, to small businesses, everyone who are now affected by this strike?
It's hugely disruptive. It has a huge impact on a lot of people, especially when it comes as a bit of a surprise, and we didn't get any forewarning that it was coming. So there's still a lot of stuff trapped in the system. There's still 35,000 flyers that are trapped in the system from that their ban. So it's hugely disruptive. It has a huge impact. And but what we tell our customers is, we can't just sign on to buy labor peace, because the price tag right now is $2.8 billion.
So just, I know I said final point, but you didn't get any advance warning? Like, we saw the people going off the job in the Atlantic provinces, and then Jim Gallant said here last night that the call was going out, the strike was back on. You didn't know until then, or when they issued the statement? What can you tell me about that?
No, we've become frequent watchers of your show so that we can understand what's going on in our facilities. So no, there was no advance warning. It happened, and the reality is then, it's their legal right totally respect that. But we try and let our customers know, like, look, don't bring anything. Here's what's going on, because they're all looking to us. We didn't have answers, so you can just imagine at some point we're going to try and earn back customers, but man, it's going to be tough.
Jon Hamilton, good luck. It's Jon Hamilton with Canada Post. Thank you, sir.